Hello, good evening. Waiting for everybody to come to our page. So today we're going to have a discussion with Veronica Semenova, the famous psychologist in Cyprus. But before we start, I would like to give some information that we have for this week. So first of all, we are having this beautiful campaign that we launched called Helping Heroes Initiative. It's a campaign which is focused towards helping all the healthcare workers, especially the front line, with just a thank you gesture from us and our partners. And from the Kypwell side, we are giving as a gift hand cream, face mask, nourishing face mask, and an immune boosting tea. And our partners are offering some products and services. So it's a nice campaign that we're hoping somehow to just support our healthcare workers and to say thank you to them for their amazing job. And also we are having our weekly email going. Please sign up to our email list so that you can get all the tips and the new announcements and all the information about what we're doing. And you will see our lives that we had with different experts in the industry. And also you will see face wellness training that was done by our head of wellness and spa, Maria Damalis. This week we will be launching our gua sha and oil box, which is very nice and beautiful. And also we are going to start our beauty breakfasts from next week, which is something really short that will be in the mornings. And during these special times, we will be discussing with you some questions that you're really interested in. Something like what is face wellness, how to take care of an acne skin, how to take care of dehydrated skin, what kind of sun care we should be using, so all the questions. And we will be launching on our stories a short survey where you can just suggest your ideas, what we should be doing. And this is what we're going to tell you at our beauty breakfasts, all the possible beauty tips and wellness tips for you. So what else I didn't tell you from our news? I think mostly, yes, very important thing is we've been doing a survey, satisfaction survey through our email. So if you receive such letter, please give us your feedback. It's so important to us. How do you enjoy our products? What do you suggest to us? Any ideas, it would be really helpful. And now I'm waiting for Veronica to join us so we can start our talk on mental well-being. Actually, the topics that we want to discuss with her today, actually the quarantine life. Okay, and she's joining me now. Start. Hello, good evening. Very happy for you to be here with us today. Thank you so much.
Very glad to be with you.
So I would like to introduce Veronica to everybody. She has a master's degree in general psychology and a PhD degree in health psychology. And as you understand, guys, this is the main reason why I'm so excited to invite Veronica today, because we're going to be open very soon. Actually, a lot of things are opening in Cyprus starting from Monday, which means that I have to tell you, I was reading in the morning a 15-page document from our government instructing us how the business should be operating from Monday. It's amazing the changes we're going to see. So and most of them are concerned the hygiene factor. So which means that all of us have to change a lot of our habits and really look at our life. Anyway, so a PhD degree in health psychology is something that we really appreciate right now. And Veronica is a member of the American Psychological Association and Psyche International Oral Society in Psychology and an Association of Psychological Therapies. Oh my God, you have so many degrees. It's difficult for me to mention all of them.
Thank you for a wonderful introduction and a welcome. And I'm really glad we're doing this live today for all of our English-speaking followers, because I feel like myself, I have been neglecting the English-speaking followers and have not been doing enough during this time, because it's a really important group to address as well.
Absolutely.
And I very much agree with you that health psychology used to be a very specialized field in psychology and not very much understood and regarded. But now, with all of these issues about health and hygiene coming up, we have become a forefront. And I'm getting so many questions and so many requests about what our life is going to be in the coming future, and indeed priority of taking care of our health and of changing our habits and of prioritizing what is going to be important in the coming months or maybe even years is extremely good to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody already kind of realized that we've been living a very fast life. We've been always running and doing everything fast. The whole business became really fast. It's like, fast-paced business everywhere. We see nail bar, hair bar, everything just run quickly, do it and go. And now what I hear from a lot of mothers, it's a huge surprise for me. Okay, my daughter is 20 years old and she's not even with me. She's stuck in London. But I hear from a lot of women who are staying with their kids home. I was surprised. They say, we don't want this to end. We want to stay as we are right now, because we kind of got used to being home with our kids. We managed to organize some kind of regime, and we don't want to change it, because we realized, oh my God, our kids have a lot of problems with school because they were going there socializing, but they weren't studying much, for example. And now they see these gaps and they're helping them. It's a lot of cooking together, I see that it's a lot of quality time, and now everybody, although everybody wants quarantine to be finished, but at the same time, I hear that, oh, it's such a pity because now we got used to this regime.
Well, you're right. This time in quarantine has brought up the importance of family and the importance of family time and the special relationships that need to exist in the house in order for all of us to be psychologically, emotionally happy at home. And indeed, we have been too much running and hasty, and we have missed out on the importance of these relationships and how essential it is for us to create this wonderful atmosphere at home. I believe that as much as coronavirus has created negative for us and has brought so much anxiety and fear into our lives, it has also taught us very important lessons. And these lessons, I believe, we will not let go of. And I fully understand, and I also hear it from people that I talk to, that the reevaluation of our life and the fact that we started appreciating the close community, the close circle of people that we are with during this self-isolation, and the closer communication with those who are perhaps not close to us, but in remote locations, but we still started talking to them more often, started, taking care of each other. I believe that this kind of close relationships are going to continue going forward. And this pandemic has just given us a good lesson of how important these relationships are and how non-important perhaps are relationships with another circle of people that we were spending a lot of our time, however, not gaining a lot of value. So this time has taught us to prioritize, has taught us to really focus on things which are important, on our health, on our well-being, on the health and well-being of people who are close to us, and on the importance of emotionally strong bonds in our close communities, and the fact that we can be responsible for each other, that we can be you see, with what is going to happen with the lifting of the restrictions is that basically going from the government-controlled health measures, we are going to go to individually controlled health measures and business-controlled health measures. What it means is that the government is going to pass to us the responsibility for maintaining our health. So the government is saying, okay, you can go out of the house after, you know, the 21st of May without any restriction. You can go wherever you like, you can do whatever you like, but the responsibility for your health and for protecting yourself and your loved ones is basically being shifted into our hands. And this is a very big responsibility, because coronavirus and this pandemic has shown us that I am responsible for your health and you are responsible for my health. And that's why the individual hygienic protective measures are going to become so important. And you are right in mentioning this document that was circulated to businesses, and I'm sure we will hear a lot of regulations which will become which will come into force for individuals as well, about the importance of this responsibility. It is a real responsibility for community health, which lies within all of us. Yeah. And this is going to be a big change in our mentality and in the way we go ahead living our lives, because coronavirus isn't going to disappear when the restrictions are lifted. It is likely to be with us for many, many months ahead, if not years. So we really all have to prepare ourselves without fear, without panic.
This is a key word that you mentioned, the fear and the panic. Can you help us in this sense a little bit, how to deal with this feeling of, of fear? Because how are we going to be with people now? How are we going to kiss them when we meet them? How are we going to sit in a restaurant? Okay, all of this will be regulated, etc. But internally, a lot of people are they have a lot of fear. So how do we deal with this kind of emotion? Is it emotion?
It is. Fear, of course, is an emotion, and it's a reaction to what is happening around us. We have all lived through a lot of emotions during this time of self-isolation. We have faced shock and denial. We have faced anger and protest. We have faced sadness and sorrow, and some have even faced depression. And yes, fear is the current stage in which we all are, because yes, restrictions are being lifted, but we all very well understand that the pandemic is not over. So fear is something absolutely normal. And fear as a feeling, as an emotion, it's an absolutely basic and normal emotion, which is given to us in order to save us and to preserve our lives. So we need to acknowledge the fear. So there is no need to deny that, I shouldn't be afraid. Yes, we should be afraid. However, fear is best treated with clear responses. So when you feel afraid, you need to formulate thoughts and ideas with which you can respond to the fear. So for example, in this situation, what could be our response to the fear? The fact that we will recognize that wearing masks and taking care of hygiene is something that each of us can do. This is something that we can control. What we cannot control is what other people around us are doing or how other people are treating their hygiene requirements. So the responsibility for hygiene lies in our hands, and this is something that we can control. So responding to the fear, yes, we need to understand that it is our responsibility and we need to treat it with the utmost respect, is to be protecting ourselves and taking those measures that are well known now by washing hands and wearing a mask in the public space, and perhaps foregoing for a time being those kissing and hugging effects that we are all used to. Unfortunately, we need to realize that it is in the best interest of each of us to let go of this for a temporary period in order to protect ourselves and protect the loved ones that we have at home, who are perhaps a little bit more weak or health compromised. So in order to save them, we need to restrict those activities to the minimum. And this is going to become a reality. Let's look at how Asia has been living for many years already. They have been wearing masks almost non-stop. If you look at China, if you look at Japan, those people, they've actually developed a culture of wearing masks. Yes, it was due to smoke issues and due to environmental issues. And of course, it's not the best solution to be outside with a mask all the time. However, at these times, it looks like this is really what is going to save lives. So it is important that we do it. And the fear that we have of, you know, global economic crisis and financial, let's say, turbulences that are happening, some of them we cannot control. So in fear of things which you cannot control, your best solution is to focus on what you can do, on what you individually can undertake in order to protect yourself, protect the people around you. So this is going to come onto the surface, the personal individual responsibility. This is the response to the fear, the only one that we can have.
So is this like a general approach to our feelings, to acknowledge them and then try to understand which ones are we can control and which ones we cannot?
Absolutely. With the fear, the best tactic is to actually take a piece of paper and to write down what you are afraid of, like make a list of all of these things. And then in a column next to it, think and really think, really contemplate. Is this something that I can control, and to what degree? And if there is a degree that I can control, then what can I do in that circumstances? Or if this is something that I cannot control, then, you know, perhaps worrying about it isn't going to help me. So I'm just going to become more upset and, you know, my emotional state is going to be dysregulated for no apparent reason. So yes, when worry and anxiety and fear come, it is important to acknowledge them. It is important to confirm that, yes, I am afraid. I do fear for my health. I do fear for the health of my loved ones, for my family. And this is what I can do. I can make sure that all of them have the protective, hygienic resources. So they have a mask, they have gloves, they have hand sanitizers, they have everything available to them, that they know how to use it and they are actually using it, that they know how to behave in public spaces and that I am behaving in public spaces in certain ways. And that when we come home, there is a certain procedure that we follow. So, you know, setting those routine actions in place is actually a great way to deal with fear. So fear is always handled with clarity, with acknowledgement, and with real actions that we can all do. Because worrying about all the world collapsing and everybody dying around us isn't going to help us. We need to work out a certain mechanism that, you know, lets us survive this and lets us keep our sanity as well. Because no doubt that many people have been so worried over this time that they have worked themselves absolutely to a state of panic and nervous condition, and up to a point of a nervous breakdown. So it is important to protect ourselves from this happening.
Yeah, it's interesting because when the quarantine was stopped, quite a few people, what they've done from the beginning is they kind of, how do you call this? They just copied their life before into their life in the quarantine, and they start looking for things to make themselves as busy, so they're not with themselves. They lose kind of their mindfulness.
That's right. It has happened to a lot of people, and you know, we can't really judge this, because when you're used to a very active life and you're used to basically doing something all the time without having any time for yourself, And once these people found themselves in quarantine, yes, I have seen it and I have heard it as well. They were signing up for all sorts of trainings and seminars and, you know, doing master classes in this and that, and watching, making lists of movies and series that they have to watch and all the books that they have to read and so many activities. And a couple of weeks into the quarantine, you could see that these people were getting emotionally burnout. So they started realizing that just because they found themselves at home in quarantine doesn't mean that they really got that much more free time, because even though we're at home, we still had a lot of things to do at home, and perhaps even more than before, because cooking 3 times a day, doing different house chores and, you know, all the activities, it takes time. So just because you're at home doesn't mean that you have 24 hours of free time that you need to fill in with something. So many people have realized that really, you know, you don't get any free time in quarantine. You are busy from morning till night. The day passes by very quickly. And if you actually take it seriously to talk to people who are with you, to actually take this time with and use it with an advantage of perhaps rebuilding your relationship with your loved ones, with the children that you haven't been seeing when all of this hectic life was going on. So if you actually took this time with a benefit, you found that really there is not that much free time. And I'm glad that many people that you spoke to and that I am talking to have shared with you that, you know, cooking together and doing certain activities at home together has helped them to go through this time, and they have actually learned to appreciate it. It is so important for us not to let go of this and to really enjoy this going forward, because I think this is going to be the response to fear. This is going to be the response to anxiety. Being together and feeling that we are all in this together. And
one thing I think that, and quite a few people have questioned on that actually, how to, okay, a modern woman, right? Before she was also, besides cooking, running after children and doing all that, she was working. Now she came home and everybody just realized, aha, she's home. So let's take advantage of that totally. Husband wants attention, children want attention, and then I don't know who else is in the house also want attention. And suddenly we're going from one guilt of being constantly at work and not paying attention to children and the husband, and then we're going to another guilt that, okay, I'm sitting here at home and they want me 24 hours a day and I need to pay them attention 24 hours a day. But in reality, it's not possible, because there should be boundaries. There should be my time, and nobody can, I mean, I deserve my own privacy, etc. Can you give us like a practical tips how to tell children and husband and whoever else is home that this is my time, bye-bye, don't bother me?
It's very important. Yes, you're right. Defining your personal boundaries is extremely important. And one thing we don't understand as, you know, women who have this guilt syndrome of not paying enough time to those around us. One thing that we completely disregard is that people around us actually want to know where our boundary is. So children especially, they have this tendency of feeling the space, feeling the boundaries around them. So it is very important for them to find your boundaries at a certain time. Otherwise, they will continue pushing until they find the boundary. So the better you can define those boundaries, the more comfortable people around you are. So the clearer the boundaries, the more comfort around you. So some people really have a trouble understanding it. They think that when they break all boundaries and they say, I'm here for you all the time, they think that they're doing a favor to the other person, but they're actually making the other person feel very, very uncomfortable. So as adults, as individuals, as women, we need to give an example to our children, and we need to define those boundaries so children can define their own boundaries based on our example. So it is extremely important, even in quarantine, even when we're at home, to say, look, now is the time for mommy to do these things, and it's the time for you to do these things. And let's say in half an hour, we will meet in the kitchen, we will have a cup of tea, we will discuss what we have done. And then again, so in 10 minutes tea break. And then again, we're going to go to the things that we have to do. I have my work that I need to do. You have your schoolwork or homework or whatever reading that you need to do. And then after a certain time, we will meet again. Much like school regime, where there are lessons and breaks, and then lessons and breaks. So in a family scenario, this is something that can work. And if we're talking about times with husbands, and again, feeling guilty that perhaps we're not devoting enough time, again, many men have this attitude that it is important for them to know when you need your space, because otherwise they feel they're constantly intruding into your space, and that doesn't make them feel happy or comfortable either. So it is important to have a clear and honest conversation to say, look, darling, I love you, and you know how much I value our relationship, and I very much enjoy us to be together, and there is nothing more important for me. However, there are times which I need to do certain things by myself, or I would like to be alone a little bit, to read a book, to do something. It is a me time, and it is very important for my emotional balance. And I can assure you that any person who is rational and caring will accept it with actually appreciation and gratitude, because nobody wants to be an intruder. Nobody wants to be abusing your personal space or privacy, or this wish to do something. So I think it's about clear communication and opening up with each other. And this is what many couples have trouble actually talking and saying how they feel, what is important to them. So during this quarantine time, what I find is that most of these relationship issues came up, and they came up to the surface because the time when people found themselves in an apartment or in a house together on extended periods of time has actually brought up the little things that were perhaps in need of attention but were hidden or, you know, left for later. They all came up now.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, you mentioned about the kids and how you can explain the kids that we will meet, for example, in the kitchen, etc. What if they don't listen? They start screaming, they start interrupting, they don't want to respect this time. I remember, sorry, I can give example. Because I've been working from home for many years now, and I have like an office, and my daughter, whenever she needed me, she would just come. She wouldn't even care what I'm doing. Hi, mom, bang on the table, her whatever homework, or she would say, mommy, or something. And it was extremely difficult for me to understand what to do with this. I realized two things. First of all, I was not organized enough because I never explained to her when is the time that I can pay her attention.
Yes.
And second of all, I was not acknowledging that situation. So I was always busy with my stuff, and the child was always in kind of like an intruder, like you said. So I think it's a mistake, maybe even more on parents rather than on children, because they think that, oh, they bother us, but in reality it's probably they're not understanding things.
Exactly. You know, whatever happens in the behavior of a child, it is never the fault of a child. It is only the problem that the parents have not been successful enough to explain the position and to find the right communication channel with the children. And I also believe that praise is a far more powerful instrument for children than punishment. So at every stage, parents need to notice what they can praise the child for, and ignore at certain times the negative behavior. So by praising the positive behavior, the child will try to perform positively more and more, because they like to be praised. They like to be told that they are good, they're wonderful, they've done something great. So the more chances you have to praise a child, notice what he has done right, or catch any moment when you like the behavior and just say, what a great job you're doing, I'm so proud of you. And at certain times ignore the negative. So the child will learn that when he's doing something not good, he's not getting praised, he's not getting told off, but he's not getting praised. So it's better to do something positive and get praised rather than do something negative and not get a reaction. So not giving a reaction is already a kind of a negative scenario for a child. So at the time of quarantine, and I have had a lot of clients talk to me about this situation as well, on how to structure this communication. And I'm seeing this work in absolutely every scenario that I'm discussing. Giving more praise works wonders, because every child, even small children and teenagers, they love to be complimented on what they do. It's a great motivation to have this praise and supportive environment at home. And again, spending time with our children, don't think that our children really need 24 hours of the time. What they need is quality time. So if you can spend 10-15 minutes of quality time, of actually talking, discussing what's bothering them during this pandemic, what we have seen is that children have a lot of fears and anxiety as well. Their life has been abruptly changed by what has happened. Their school stopped, they're not seeing their friends, then they are limited in going out, they're restricted to their rooms and to their houses. It is a huge stress for them as well. So taking quality time to talk to children, to discuss what their fears are, what we can do to help them, is already a big thing that we can do. And that will resolve the demand of a long time to spend together, because once children feel that their fears are being answered, that their emotions are actually heard, that the parents have the time and the interest to understand what's going on, they do not need to cling, and they do not need to be next to an adult all the time, because a child who is clingy, a child who needs emotional presence all the time, is a child in fear, is a child who is not not emotionally confident, and needs the presence of an adult to feel safe. So this is a big signal to parents to really check what's going on, what are the fears, what can I do to help in this situation.
What about teenagers at this situation? How is their situation? Their school went all upside down. They're left without socializing. Now they're getting to know their parents, and parents are also getting to know teenage children.
Yes.
And this must be really complicated for families.
I think a lot of families have gone through really hard times, especially in the first weeks of quarantine, because, as you correctly said, many families have gotten so detached. They were seeing each other for very, very little time during our past life before coronavirus. Kids were going to school and to their different after-school activities, spending time with friends, and really spending very little time as families. Many families don't actually have a tradition of sharing even a dinner together, and they don't understand that this is the main, let's say, thing that keeps the families together, sharing meals together. Okay, it's understood that during lunch, parents may be working and kids are at different activities, but dinner is an essential time when family must gather at home around the table, discuss what has happened in each other's lives, and feel a union, a family union. And this is something that was missing from many households. And I personally have seen it in many difficult family situations, that you ask them, do you actually get together as a family? And the answer was no, we're so busy, you know, we come home at different times and each of us makes something for themselves. And then where is the family? So how does this exist? Is this a group of strangers just sharing a roof? This has nothing to do with a family union. So it has come to the surface, and this has become a very important thing for families to think of. And I think that what has happened is that we have really started to look at family situations very different, at family unions, at the importance of sharing our lives with those that we share the roof together, and actually being involved in each other's worries and emotions and helping each other go through this. Because
sorry, can you mention here about men? Because I think, okay, we discussed how children are surviving the stress, and the women, how they're surviving the stress. But what about men? What is happening with them?
Very difficult situation for men, because let's not forget that men have a harder time processing emotions and actually showing what they're feeling. So many men consider it to be a weakness when they are seen worrying or they are seen sad. So as we know, many boys grow up in this really bad stereotype where they're being told, you know, you're a boy, you shouldn't cry, you have to keep it within yourself, you shouldn't show any emotions. So men, as a result of this, have a harder time processing emotions, and they would rather lock them inside and not let anything out. And this of course turns into health issues. So the incidence of heart attacks and strokes in men, as we know, is much higher. And all of this is can be attributed to this inability to work through their emotions. So in this quarantine time, it is important for us women to remember this and to understand that men feel an obligation to protect their families. They feel that it's on their shoulders, it's a burden on their shoulders to really be there for their wives and their children, to take care of them, perhaps for the aging parents as well, and for the extended family. So they feel a lot of pressure and a lot of load of those emotions that they cannot actually open up about. So it is important to, again, structure the communication in such a way to start sharing. And you know, you can, if you ask the man, what do you feel and what is worrying you, most likely you're not going to get an answer. But if you initiate the conversation and say, you know, I'm really looking at all of this and listening to the news, it makes me feel very worried, and you know, I think of this and I'm wondering how this is going to be. So open up the conversation like this, share what you feel, share what you think, share what you have heard from those close to you. In that way, helping the man next to you to open up as well and to start sharing little by little, you know. But it's an important process to go through, and this communication channel should remain open at all times. Like, it should become a habit every evening to share what we have heard, what we are thinking about it, how we process the information that we receive. Extremely important in a family, let's say in a family balance, to have these communication channels open.
I think we covered quite a bit on families. Let's talk a little bit about people who got stuck in the quarantine alone. And there are quite a few people like that. And from what I've seen, we can see like an opposite kind of extreme there. From in a family where a woman, for example, she's a busy bee, and she kind of maybe doesn't even notice what's going on. But here, you are alone. You are stuck at this, even maybe apartment. You cannot go outside. Maybe you don't have a balcony.
Yeah.
And I heard quite a few cases that they said, I don't want to do anything. I don't have any motivation. I want to lay down in bed, or I want to drink, or I want to eat. And basically, like, days passing by, and they just like totally unable, let's say, to do anything. Or we actually had a question here also. It says, I'm now doing my master's online and it's hard to concentrate. So again, it's the same thing. The person staying at home by herself, and she has to do something, but she cannot concentrate. I think it's kind of connected.
Absolutely. Let's not forget that the time of quarantine is actually a time of very heightened stress. And during stress requires us to concentrate energy on a very short period of time. So this is a survival mechanism for us. It's a fight or flight reaction, and it gives us very short-ended energy. This is the reason why many people who went into quarantine with all these plans of accomplishing so much and doing this and doing that, they found that after 1 or 2 weeks, they were completely drained of energy, and the lack of concentration set in because you know, stress is a hormonal reaction. So cortisol has been released. We have gotten our, let's say, portion of energy to fight the stress, and then suddenly it just disappeared. So the quarantine and this pandemic, we need to look at it as a marathon, not as a sprint. You know, stress gives us energy to run a short distance, 200 meters, but it will never give us energy to run 42 kilometers of a marathon. For doing that, and we need to understand that we are in it for a long run. We are in it for a marathon. We need to prepare ourselves for an extended period of stressful activity. So we need to pace ourselves. We need to respect our health. We need to learn how to take care of ourselves and how to manage our time. This has become even more important now. The importance of having a regime and actually, you know, scheduled time for different activities during the day. So morning, your priority is to wake up, to have a little bit of your gymnastics or exercise, to have your breakfast, to take care of, you know, your needs, your health needs. And then you need to dedicate some time for your work or for your studies, and actually have a regime, a schedule that, you know, from 10 to 12, I am working or I am studying. Then you are taking a small break. You actually need to make yourself a schedule and keep to it. And those, for that question about studying online, it is a very good one. And because I've been teaching at online universities for several years now, and I know what online students are going through. My advice to them is always the same. You need to set the time for studying. And yes, on some days you will have more motivation and you will accomplish more. On some days you will actually feel tired and perhaps not be interested to do as much, but you need to make sure that you are actually in front of your computer during that time. Whether you are reading, whether you're doing some research, whether you're just editing some work that you have written before or you have done before, doesn't matter. Just be there. Just dedicate those hours to your study time and make sure that nothing else is disturbing or distracting you. This is your time that you're dedicating to studying. And trust me, day after day, if this schedule is in place, you will see a lot of results happening. You will see that, yes, on some days you will do more, on some days you will do less, but on a continuum, you will see that you are really achieving a lot. And this applies to any work project or any project that, you know, we need to complete over time. Make sure that you dedicate time to it. Even if it's 15 minutes a day, make sure that in your schedule there is this 15 minutes a day for this important project that I have to do. And this is my time during the day that I'm going to sit and actually look at it. So day after day, things are going to start happening.
Yeah, I think in general, organizing ourselves solves so many problems. It's amazing. In problems with children, problems with husband, problems in general, organizing the work, everything. I mean, it's extremely important. Like I said, when my daughter left the house, I had more time to kind of process all my parental mistakes that I've made. And I think one of the
I'm
greatest
sure there
one.
were not mistakes. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Okay, I don't know how to call them, but anyway, and I think like one of my biggest one was not organizing correctly the regime for the child, because when the child is born, I see it from children, I see it from animals. Everybody needs a regime.
Absolutely. Everybody needs discipline. Everybody needs a program, a schedule, and it is extremely important for the emotional balance of each one of us. You're rightly saying we're juggling so many things at the same time. You know, like in the circus, we have so many dishes that have to keep on spinning and not fall down, that it's really, really difficult. One thing that we are all forgetting to do is to praise ourselves for doing this, to praise ourselves for actually juggling so many roles and activities. Every woman is a cook, is a doctor at home, is a cleaner, is a laundry operator. She works, she provides for everyone, takes care of everyone. These are a lot of jobs and a lot of roles that each of us are juggling. And listen, we have to praise ourselves for that. And we have to say, well done. Today I have done so much. I have, been doing this, and this. Give yourself credit. Actually, instead of beating yourself up about what you didn't manage to do today, look at what you have done and give yourself a little credit. This creates a positive environment in which you exist. This creates gratitude and appreciation for yourself, for your abilities, and for actually all the strength that we have. And during these times of us being, deprived of our habitual life, of the things that we're used to, it is extremely important to turn into something positive, to actually tell ourselves we're living through probably the worst unprecedented situation of our time, and perhaps of our parents' time. Never in the life of our parents or us has such a situation happened. So we are actually doing very well by keeping
Absolutely.
our families together, by keeping ourselves together, by not resorting to panic, by staying in some kind of calm attitude. We're doing well, we're surviving this, and we're gonna continue doing well because of our abilities and our strength and our attitude and our faith in the fact that things are gonna improve.
I know that you're going to have a book, your new book that is coming about eating.
Yes.
And this is advice that we need right now very much, because we don't move much, of course. And in general, the pace of life changed. So I think we're not burning as much calories as before. So I noticed that many are gaining weight. And also many are eating comforting food, trying to put the stress down by eating. So can you give us some advice how to handle this?
Yes, you're absolutely right that it's emotional eating that has added quite a few kilos to many people, because in times of stress, we are comforting ourselves with food. And many people actually have this reaction in any time of stress, when they're upset or when they're going through a certain stressful situation. They start eating in order to calm themselves, to distract themselves. Some people even describe that they come to the fridge and then they don't remember anything. They everything else is in a fog. So what is important for us to understand is that there is a difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger. And it is extremely important to keep that in mind next time when you are going to the fridge to, see if there is something nice to snack on. Remember that in physical hunger, first of all, it comes on gradually. Emotional hunger happens immediately. So you feel like, all of a sudden you need to eat something and, it can't wait. physical hunger will usually grow over a period of time. So it will take 2 to 3 hours for you to get extremely hungry. In emotional hunger, it's immediate. So by recognizing the differences, you will help yourself, you know, stop and say, okay, I really just had lunch about an hour ago. I can't be that hungry. So right now my mind is telling me that I need to eat, but it's only my reaction to something stressful going on. And usually what I see in people who start working with this is that they start noticing what exactly makes them feel this emotional hunger. So for some people, it's talking to someone on the phone. You know, they feel like when they talk to someone, they actually need to eat something. Or they are preparing for a conversation with someone and they need to reinforce themselves. So there are certain emotional triggers, as we call them, that cause people to start wanting to eat. So this is the first difference, the graduality of onset of hunger. The second one is that when you're physically hungry, you don't have a preference. You're ready to eat anything. When you're emotionally hungry, you particularly crave cakes, sweets, biscuits, you know, things that are usually sweet. So it's your mind's reaction to stress that it wants to get easy carbs, you know, things that will go into becoming glucose or fructose immediately and can be used as energy immediately. In physical hunger, you know, even if you are given a raw broccoli, you will be happy to eat it. In emotional hunger, I don't think anybody will start snacking on broccoli. So it's another difference, another, you know, thing for you to consider next time you are looking for something to eat. Would I like to eat a raw broccoli now if it was given to me? If the answer is no, you're not hungry. Also, a lot of times we do not realize that hunger is confused with thirst. So have a glass of water, give yourself some, you know, feed your thirst, and then see if this has been the cause of hunger. And really working through understanding the differences between physical and emotional hunger is going to help a lot. In the book, I am giving a lot of practical information about how all of these emotional aspects and the reasons for emotional eating, why they're happening and how to work with them. Because many people eat out of fear. Many people eat out of insecurity. Many people eat, you know, because they have this childhood impressions on how they should eat, that they shouldn't leave anything in their plate, that it's not good to throw food away. So there are a lot of emotional blocks that we are carrying in us that make us eat and overeat, unfortunately. And so an advice to everyone now during the quarantine is to move a little bit more, you know, to make sure that there is some physical activity every day, a little bit of gymnastics or a little bit of walking. Something has to be moving, because yes, obviously, if we sit on the couch for an extended period of time and we eat emotionally, then the result is going to be very, very sad. And not just, you know, for the extra kilos, but for the negative impact on our health.
Yes, again, I think it comes kind of down to self-organization and mindfulness, because in order to stop opening that fridge, we need to think a little bit, which is, again, we cannot live in that fast pace. We need to slow down. This is so important, I think.
You know, for many people, eating is an absolutely automatic process.
Yeah.
So many people, they put some food in front of themselves and they don't even realize how they gulped it, so how they ate it. So they eat, first of all, at a very fast pace, which has to change. We need to remind ourselves to eat slowly, to actually chew the food, because everybody knows that it takes 20 minutes from for the signal from our stomach to go into our brain about our level of hunger. So it's important to chew slowly. It's important not to be looking at devices or TVs during the food. So to actually be there, present in the moment, practice mindfulness. This is really mindfulness in eating. Look at your plate, look at what you're eating, listen to the signals of your body when you're feeling that you are already kind of full. Make sure that you're eating not in a dark room, because in the dark room you will eat more just because you're not seeing the food. Make sure that there is not a lot of noise in the room where you're eating. Again, when people are in noisy environments, they tend to eat more. There is a lot of research about it. So mindfulness, you know, people very often ask me, how do I start practicing mindfulness? Well, that's your chance. 3 times a day, practice mindfulness, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dedicate those 20 minutes. Don't let yourself be distracted. Actually devote 20 minutes 3 times a day to eating. This is the best mindfulness practice that you can do for yourself.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I would like to point also about chewing. Tomorrow, for our Russian-speaking audience, we're going to have a very interesting talk with a Meyer therapist. Meyer is a special approach actually to being fit, to being healthy, etc. And yeah, it will be very interesting. I recommend highly. And what they say in their theory is that everything we chew has to be at least 40 times.
40
so,
times, very good.
Yeah, so try
Especially
this, guys.
meat and any proteins which are difficult to digest for our bodies. Yes, it helps both emotionally and health-wise. Absolutely correct.
And it will kind of show the amount of time we should be spending actually on chewing.
Yeah.
Veronica, tell us please, the book is coming in English or in Russian?
The book is going to come out in Russian first, but it is being immediately translated into English because the subject is so interesting for everyone that I'm really pushing the translator to work fast on its translation. So
when are we going to expect at least the Russian version?
The Russian version, I think in a couple of weeks, I'm expecting the first printed books to arrive in Cyprus. And I think the ebook will come out even earlier. So it will be sold through Amazon and ozon.ru and all of the digital stores. So hopefully soon. And also something that is coming up in what's cooking, let's say, is I am going to launch an online psychology academy with online courses. And the first course in this academy is actually going to be based on the book of Psychology of Nutrition and Eating. So my goal is to help as many people as possible to find a way to deal with their emotional eating. And I think this is actually going to be a really good initiative.
Yeah, and I would like to tell all our audience that Veronica has a website and you can book actually online consultations with her there. It's amazing that you do this. Thank you so much for
I also
for
want
being
to
here.
Thank you, and also to thank you for the initiative for our healthcare workers that you've invited me to join. I'm very happy to be able to do that, and I think all of us, we have to support our healthcare workers and do all we can to help them. So I'm really grateful to Kypwell for doing that, and to you personally. And
thank you very much. Yes, we're launching this campaign to help and to say thank you to all the healthcare workers. Some giving, we're giving some free products. Some Veronica is giving some free services for them, and we have some other partners who are participating with products. I think it's so important to say thank you to them. They're suffering so much. I mean, their faces, their hands. Now Elena, she's talking to them, and we're finding out like a lot of pain they're going through. So if you guys want to join us in this, and the emotional burnout for sure. I mean, it's
So let's do all we can.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Every
time it's like a great to have a talk with you. Thank you so much.
To talk to you as well. Really
Thank you. Take care. Take care. Bye bye.
See you soon. Bye bye.
Yes.